Hidden worlds are all around us.
I remember stepping onto the sets and thinking, yeah, this is beyond what I had imagined from the book.
But only if we believe.
Do not dare to read this book.
It's scary and it's magic and it's, all kids love magic.
Magical stories bring out the child in everyone.
It was an experience akin to reading Lord of the Rings the first time.
Hidden worlds, on this episode of Books into Film.
Here, look for this!
We are fascinated by the possibility that magical creatures surround us.
All children have imaginary friends or imaginary places where they go, or they believe in things that are magical, like fairies and elves and that kind of thing.
C.S. Lewis created one of the most popular children's stories of all time. The Land of Narnia made children believe a hidden world was just a wardrobe away.
Some of them actually walked into their own closets and tried to pretend in the back there their own Narnia existed.
Narnia is based on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the first of 7 chronicles.
The Pevensey children in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe go to a big house in the country because the World War II is on and they need to escape from the bombings in London.
Lucy finds this big empty room with this enormous wooden wardrobe. So she clambers in there to hide and she's sort of backing up. And finally the clothes start turning into pine branches. And then she takes a step backward and she falls and she's in the middle of a snow-covered forest. And that's how we start.
We will take Narnia forever!
Narnia's under the curse of the White Witch, and it's as if everything's stopped. And the thing that's really evaporated for all the creatures in Narnia is hope.
Aslan, we need your help.
I know, but understand, the future of Narnia rests on your courage.
C.S. Lewis dreamed up Narnia during the dark days of the Second World War.
During the Second World War, he had some children come to stay with him at his big old house in the countryside, and they were being protected from the bombings in London as well, and he would tell stories to those children. One of the children liked to explore a wardrobe that was in his house.
When Lewis finished his manuscript, he read it to his friend J.R.R. Tolkien, author of The Lord of the Rings.
C.S. Lewis and Tolkien got to know each other through a literary group that was formed. A bunch of writers got together. It was called Inklings.
He and Tolkien thought that no one of their era was actually writing children's books that they, when they were children, would have wanted to read, for one thing. And secondly, children's books as they ought to be written. So they decided to do it themselves.
The Chronicles of Narnia has sold over 100 million copies in 41 languages around the world. But Hollywood waited more than 50 years to make it.
Today, we finally have the technology to do this series of books justice. Not only on this particular project do we have the technology, we also have one of the world's leading masters of the art of computer-generated imagery, for example, as director in Andrew Adamson.
Andrew Adamson's initial challenge was to convince producers to leave the original story alone.
I was approached first of all by Walden Media, by Perry Moore and Cary Granite, and they asked me if I was interested, and at first I sort of said no, and largely because I knew it was a very daunting task, and I was also worried that they would want to make something that was like a more contemporary adaptation.
The filmmakers had to create a hidden world that matched readers' imaginations.
I remember stepping onto the sets and thinking, yeah, this is beyond what I had imagined from the books.
My approach to the movie is that it's real, that Narnia is a real world. It's not like The Wizard of Oz. It's not, this is something that's happened in their imagination, or Peter Pan, where it's happened in Wendy's imagination. To me, Narnia is a real place.
Georgie Henley plays Lucy, the character who finds Narnia.
The best way to capture Lucy's excitement was to capture Georgie's excitement. So we blindfolded her, carried her down.
I didn't know that they would do this to me. They said that they were blindfolding me, but I didn't know that they were actually doing it. I thought they were joking.
She probably was surrounded to some degree with, you know, fake snow and some fake trees and so on, but the emotions and the awe that Adamson got out of this little actor girl is phenomenal.
I felt so sorry for the cameraman because he had to follow me on Steadicam, not knowing where I would go, because I would just go everywhere.
I went down and gave her a hug at the end of the take because it was just so exciting to see her, and she was shaking.
If it's a war Aslan wants, it's a war he shall get.
The White Witch, played by Tilda Swinton, was one of the few Narnians that wasn't animated.
I wasn't sure what to think because she's blonde and fair, and the White Witch has very, very white skin, but in the book she has dark hair. So she didn't look like what I envisioned the witch to look like, but I thought she was brilliant.
The real challenge with making the look was that she shouldn't look man-made, that she should look fantasy, that she should look like a creature.
The director encouraged Tilda to avoid the children on set so they'd be scared of her.
When she first arrived, she was told by Andrew not to socialise with me because at the time I was running off the wall with sugar and goes on and set, shoveling it and running around. And yeah, so when she arrived on set, she was sort of very laid back and cool.
Edmund, I have no children of my own. And you are exactly the sort of boy who I could see one day becoming Prince of Narnia, maybe even King.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was one of the highest-grossing movies of 2005, giving the producers the green light to adapt the next Narnia story.
Where have you been for the last few hundred years?
It's a bit of a long story.
In Prince Caspian, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy revisit their hidden world.
Interestingly enough, this was harder than the last book to adapt. It was a less cinematic story. A lot of it is told in retrospect of Trumpkin telling them what happened while they were away. So my initial feeling with the book was it was a greater challenge.
Prince Caspian? And who are you?
Peter!
Prince Caspian was released in the summer of 2008 with disappointing ticket sales.
When the Caspian movie came out, the huge expectation was there, and the big push was on. But there again, I think what happened was that they decided bigger was better. So it's all about epic battles and all that kind of stuff. And I think the people's story got a little bit lost.
I think if you think about, you know, if you think about these films as a franchise or anything sort of on that scale, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason.
When we return, convincing Nicole Kidman to join a hidden world.
It obviously worked, and I said yes, and I'm extremely glad I did.
Come, Lara! I'm not yours! I'll never be yours!
One of literature's most complex hidden worlds is Philip Pullman's The Golden Compass.
The series is called His Dark Materials. The first book in that series is called The Golden Compass.
It was an experience akin to reading Lord of the Rings the first time, although actually in some ways it was richer because it was so intellectually compelling, as well as a great story.
The real bottom line is about it's how you grow up and become an adult, and how what happens in your childhood is the most important part of your life.
The Magisterium seeks to control every world. You will need all your skill and courage.
In this parallel universe, the Magisterium is in control, but threatened by the Golden Compass that reveals the truth to its owner.
The word magisterium is actually from the Catholic Church, and it refers to their teaching authority.
A little girl named Lyra has the Golden Compass, and the Magisterium wants to take it from her.
But what's it for?
It lets you glimpse what is to come. It's of the utmost importance, perhaps to all creation.
Lyra lives in a world just like ours, but more magical.
Lyra lives in a world of old, ancient buildings and spires and church towers and all that kind of thing, just very much similar to Oxford in England.
That's odd. She acted as though she'd never seen a person's demon before. Come on, Pan.
Demons had never existed before I wrote that word, and I didn't know what it was.
And I didn't know what the relationship with Lyra was, except that in some sense he was her demon.
It's a little animal. Each demon that a person possesses represents their soul and is encased in that animal and is a very, very important part of that person, that you cannot separate that animal from that person without destroying the person.
Who's she? Dunno, but she shut up the master, all right?
Pullman created Lyra's demon as a narrative device.
Now that she had someone to talk to, the scene was much more dynamic. She could say, let's go in there, and he could say, no, we're not supposed to, and she could say, oh, come on, you're just a coward, and he could say, well, very quickly then. You know, so there's a dynamic going on, there's a conversation going on.
In 2004, Pullman passed on his story to writer and director Chris Weitz.
The story that I wrote is finished. I've done it. I played my part. I've now handed it over to Chris and his team.
Give it to me.
I don't want to. Pan, it's her. She's running the Magisterium.
After auditioning 10,000 girls to play Lyra, the producers agreed on 12-year-old Dakota Blue Richards.
Lyra was one of my favourite characters of all time, and so to get the role was just a dream come true.
A young actor like that, given the complexity of the issue she was dealing with and so much animation and so on that she had to deal with, did a superb job, you know, for someone her age.
Mrs. Coulter.
When I was a young woman, I knew that no one could ever really truly understand me.
Nicole Kidman was the first choice to play the villain, Mrs. Coulter.
She is working to get possession of that golden compass and take it to the Magisterium. So in essence, she seems to be working for the Magisterium, but she also seems to have her own agendas going on. She's quite a mysterious figure.
You mustn't deny me this little thing. You really mustn't.
At first, Kidman turned down the part. Then the author wrote her a letter.
Actually, what convinced me was Philip Pullman, who wrote me the most beautiful letter saying that he wanted me for the role. And it was very beguiling, and it obviously worked. And I said yes, and I'm extremely glad I did.
Over 1,000 effects shots were needed to create a realistic parallel universe.
You're really making two films at once. You're making the film that you make with your live actors in studio, and then you're adding on this extra layer, which is like an animated film of talking polar bears and animal spirits.
This movie couldn't have been made 4 or 5 years ago. They just were, they weren't ready to make it.
Going into this other world, this parallel universe, it's quite astonishing what they pull off today.
Integrating live-action shots with digital effects meant the actors had to depend heavily on their imaginations.
The floor was green, the ceiling was green, and the 4 walls inside the soundstage were all green.
The colour green is a bit draining and annoying. It'd be good if they could change it. But otherwise, it's like being on stage.
Mrs. Coulter, what's that?
That is the magisterial seat, Lyra.
The Golden Compass did not connect with audiences in North America.
The Golden Compass cost around $180 to make, and I believe it made less than half that back. That's a bit of a disaster in today's world, that's for sure.
Should hidden worlds be controversial? The Golden Compass was hurt when Catholics were told not to see the movie.
Many church groups, particularly Catholic groups, objected to the books and objected very much to the film because they felt that it made a mockery of religion, of organized religion.
I think it's a shame because I think that the people who are raising this furor, first of all, are people who hadn't seen the film, and they're often people who haven't read the books, but who are just hearing what some people have said about the books.
Read the books. Just read them, get an idea of what they're about, and then debate about it, because debate is healthy. And just sort of being anti-something is just a reactionary, sort of silly reactionary, and it's nothing to do with sort of art or anything.
When we return, a hidden world in a modern setting.
Instead of having kind of
British wizards or Gothic orphans. It was actually like, these are just normal suburban American kids.
Are you okay? Oh man, did I hit somebody?
Yes, thank you.
The Spiderwick Chronicles is a story about fantastical creatures that surround us, but remain unseen.
It's scary and it's magic, and it's, all kids love magic, grown-ups, everyone loves it.
Don't you want to know where this thing goes? Not really.
A divorce sends a New York mom and her kids to an abandoned Gothic house in the country.
The Spiderwick Chronicles is about the Grace family, and the mother is kind of undergoing a separation from the father. They're kind of heading towards a divorce.
They're struggling, but they do really care for each other. They're just in a bad place.
A family ancestor, Arthur Spiderwick, left behind a field guide to this hidden world.
Arthur Spiderwick's field guide.
Dear reader, you will soon see that there are fantastical creatures living among us.
Jared goes to the house, and this house in the country, the Spiderwick mansion, and there he finds the book and the field guide, and he opens it, and through that there's a whole world of sort of fairies and goblins and trolls, the unseen world that's revealed to him.
The challenges that he was facing getting along with his mom. In the books, he faces challenges getting along at school, and then this hidden world provides him with opportunities to struggle and overcome obstacles that help him in his real life.
Why can't I see you?
You don't see us, now you do, but only if we want you to.
Spiderwick began as a small book called The Field Guide by writer Holly Black and illustrator Tony DiTerlizzi.
I think you will see the spirit of an old fairy tale, perhaps like by the Brothers Grimm, but done for children of today, 21st century children with 21st century problems. They don't have any special powers. They don't live in a land far, far away, but they are literally ordinary kids in extraordinary circumstances.
All around us, goblins, trolls, sprites. You gotta believe me. Impossible. You're such a liar.
The Field Guide was published in 1993 and became a hit with both children and adults.
We're not in some strange British place, which we always seem to be in fantasies. We're not in some strange place. We're in our house, in our backyard, where strange, invisible things are happening.
It's in your home. It's where it's where these people are brought to. It's just outside New York.
Instead of having kind of British wizards or Gothic orphans, it was actually like, these are just normal suburban American kids who are suddenly stuck in a very, very fantastical situation. And that really caught my attention.
In 2005, director Mark Waters signed on to bring the Spiderwick Chronicles to life.
We kind of sat down with the producers and Mark Waters, and we said, we actually don't want you to try to make an exact facsimile of the book. We'd rather you just try to make a really cool film and just retain some of the themes and the spirit of the books.
Something's in there moving. Probably a red squirrel. Very common in this region. Or it could just be a rat.
The producers wanted twins to play the main characters, Simon and Jared Grace.
When we were casting the movie, we thought that we would try to find real identical twins, and we looked at hundreds and hundreds of real identical twins around North America, and found that we just couldn't find anybody good enough to really convey the difficult emotional scenes in this movie. Once we had Freddie on screen, it was like, well, maybe we'll have fraternal twins, but nobody really was worthy of being on camera with him.
In the end, Freddie Highmore played Simon and Jared.
It was a big challenge, and I think that's the thing that sort of drew me towards the film in the first place, that the idea of playing twins and getting that opportunity.
What do you want with me?
It's not what I want with you, it's what I want from you. Arthur Spiderwick's Field Guide.
The Grace children discover their hidden world is ruled by an ogre named Mulgarath, who wants to steal the Field Guide.
Mulgarath wants to come in, wants to kind of enter into our world and take over. So Mulgarath really wants this book, and we can't give it to him.
We certainly love the fact that in the books, Mulgarath was just like a completely fearsome bad guy, and you thought, but when you're drawing a cartoon picture book, you can kind of make him almost look like a Muppet, and he's kind of ridiculous, even though he's a 10-foot scary ogre.
Give me the book!
The character of Mulgarath, who is the big, evil, horrible monster, was played by Nick Nolte.
When Nick's voice came up, it just had this kind of like, you know, I would say an earthiness, but also a kind of malevolence to it, and it had this kind of natural, even when he was being gentle, he was growling somehow.
You failed me, Redcap. They have illustrations to show you. That kind of gives you an idea, but then it's entirely what your voice can produce. And you find out you produce sounds that you normally wouldn't come up with.
Set designers and special effects artists tried their best to capture Tony's pencil drawings from the book.
Some characters like Thimbletack and Hog Squeal looked very similar to the way they did in the drawings in the book. So I think certainly the drawings in the books were inspirations for the creation of those characters.
I have to tell you now, the house they built for Spiderwick, you drive up and you were like, whoa. It just had that feeling that, yes, we built for Spiderwick, but still. Even if they didn't build it, you'd say it was haunted.
It's a bit darker, I guess, and I still think kids like that. You know, they like going and being scared, and they're lulled into that full sense of security, and then, you know, a big goblin smashes through the window or something.
You brought the book?
To succeed, hidden worlds have to be great stories, and it helps if children can relate to the heroes.
The reason some kids would find these stories more realistic than other hidden worlds is because it does connect to the children's real lives. They are facing real challenges in moving to a new place, starting a new school, getting used to the fact that their parents are divorced.
I think the kids themselves are so real, and they're so, it's so easy to identify with them because they play their characters so honestly, and they're so interesting, and they're just real kids.
Now you believe me?
No matter where they exist, a wardrobe, a parallel universe, or your own backyard, hidden worlds are all around us. You just need to believe.
There is an invisible world out there that you might be able to see out of the corner of your eye, and it's better to know about it than not to know.
Do not dare to read this book.